George Michael had the voice, the fame, the money, wow, and also the looks. At one point, he was one of the most desired and recognizable men on the planet. So millions, I'm talking millions, screamed his name across packed stadiums while his songs played in nearly every corner of the world. But behind the sunglasses, behind the confidence, and behind that awesome smile he had was a man carrying secrets, grief, loneliness, and pressure that slowly began tearing his life apart. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee, Secrets, and Transformation. I'll be your host today, Don Ray. Because the truth is, George Michael didn't just battle fame, he battled himself. And the deeper his career went, the darker his private life was. This is the true story of George Michael. So before the scandals, before the arrest, yes, he was arrested, and before the headlines mocking him across television and tabloids, George Michael was just a young man from England named George Cosciano Pariato. And from an early age, he knew he wanted something bigger. So music wasn't just an entertainment to him. It was like an escape, an identity, power, and also a way out. In the early 1980s, he teamed up with his friend Andrew, right? And together they formed Wham, which was one of my favorite groups. So at first, nobody could predict how massive they would become. But then came the energy, the charisma, the catchy hooks, the style. Suddenly, Wham exploded into a global superdome. But even during the height of his success, something darker was quietly building underneath the surface. So the young fans were obsessed. Women adored George Michael. Record labels saw him as pure gold. And before long, he became one of the faces of pop music itself. But even during the height of his success, there was already something building underneath the surface. Because George Michael wasn't just trying to be an artist anymore. He was actually trying to maintain an image, a fantasy, a vision of himself the world wanted to see. And over time, that pressure became exhausting. Fame was a strange way of tapping people. The public falls in love with an image and then expects you to stay in that person forever. But George Michael was changing internal. And privately, he was fighting battles almost nobody knew about. After Wham splitting apart, many people thought that George Michael's fame would fade away. Instead, he became even bigger. His solo career exploded. Songs like Faith, Father Figure, and Careless Whisper turned him into a global icon. People didn't just listen to George Michael, they actually felt him. But while the world saw confidence and glamour, George Michael increasingly felt isolated behind the scenes and then tragically stuck. The death of people close to him deeply affected him emotionally, especially the loss of his partner, which many believe changed him forever. And after that loss, the scandal started. In 1998, George Michael was arrested in a public restroom in California in Beverly Hills, right across the street from the Beverly Hills Hotel. So there was an undercover sting operation, right? And they busted him for doing things inappropriate. Let's say that, right? Let's just keep it that way. So overnight, one of the world's biggest pop stars became the center of ridicule. The media had a field day with him. Tabloids mocked him. Comedians turned him into a punchline. Television networks repeatedly the story over and over again like it was like entertainment. And for many celebrities, that kind of humility would destroy them completely. But the strange enough, George Michael responded differently. Instead of completely completely collapsing, which a normal person would do, of shame, he started speaking more openly about his sexuality and his private life. But even after finally becoming more honest to the public, the panic inside him never fully disappeared. As years passed, George Michael struggled with substance abuse, emotional exhaustion, and health scares. Like, fans started wondering, like, what happened to the man who once looked unstoppable? Remember that song he made at last Christmas? Oh my God, that guy was unstoppable. The music, it just went on, video after video after hit. But here's the part many people still didn't know. Behind the scandals, behind the arrests, behind the headlines, George Michael was secretly helping people. Yeah. After his death, story after story surfaced with strangers who said George Michael had quietly paid for treatments of, like, he donated money, right? And supported struggling families without waiting attention for it, right? He helped the community. And suddenly the story changed completely. Maybe he was a man desperately trying to survive fame while carrying the pain the public couldn't never fully see. Complicated, right? Broken, he was generous, at the same time lonely. He was searching. And maybe that's why people still connected with him today. I know I do. Not because he was perfect, but because underneath all the fame, scandals, and tragedy, George Michael felt real. George Michael passed away in 2016 at the age of 53, but his voice, his pain, and his story still echoes across the world today. Thank you for watching.
Don't rave!